Imagine this. You meet Napoleon Bonaparte once, a brief moment.
You have served France well today. What is your name?
You say your name. You speak for maybe 10 seconds. Then you disappear back into the blur of war. Years later, after battles, revolutions, governments rising and falling, Napoleon passes you again. He stops, looks you in the eye, and says your name. Not just your name, your rank, your regiment, your injury, your story. This wasn't chance. It wasn't charm, it was how he built an empire. And here's what made Napoleon truly terrifying. He could remember thousands of names, soldiers he'd seen once, years before. He remembered their ranks, their wounds, their families. He studied a battlefield map for minutes and recalled every hill, every river, every position, days later, perfectly. Diplomats spoke to him once, and he repeated their words years later, exactly as they had said them. Most people think Napoleon's memory was a gift. It wasn't. It was a system. When you told him your name, he repeated it immediately. And before he turned to leave, he said it one more time. 2 repetitions, just enough to fix you in his mind. Then he attached your name to something about you. Your height, your eyes, the way you stood, a scar on your cheek. Napoleon didn't remember faces, he remembered stories. If he met you in the rain, if you limped, if you complained or joked, that became your story. Memory is easier when it's emotional. But he didn't store people randomly. He sorted them. Napoleon was using a technique we now call the memory palace. It's a method thousands of years old. You take information and place it inside an imaginary building in your mind. Each room holds a category. Each corridor holds a group. Each doorway leads to a set of faces, stories, names. The Greeks used it, the Romans used it, and Napoleon reinvented it for war. Generals in one room, regiments in another, officers who impressed him near the front of the hall, and the ones who disappointed him pushed to the back. He built an empire in the real world, and a second one inside his mind. Napoleon would close his eyes and run through the faces he'd met that day, repeating the names, the ranks, the tiny details most men forgot by dinner. It was discipline, not magic. Napoleon's memory didn't just impress people, it changed how they behaved around him. And that's where the power came from. In the Council of State, ministers spoke with precision because they knew Napoleon remembered every argument they'd made all year. If someone contradicted himself, Napoleon repeated his exact words back to him, word for word. That ability made people careful, it made them honest, and in politics, a leader who can't be misled becomes the one everyone has to follow. On campaign, officers trusted his judgment because he remembered their strengths and failures better than they did. He knew who led well, who froze under pressure, who could be relied on. And when a leader knows his men that closely, his decisions carry absolute credibility. The result? People deferred to him. They followed him. They trusted his judgment more than their own. And all of that would culminate in one final moment. A moment that would decide the fate of France. In early 1815, Napoleon returned from exile. The moment he landed, the king issued a single order: arrest him. Detachments of royal troops were sent south immediately. Veterans who had once fought under Napoleon's command, now marching with orders to stop him at any cost. But Napoleon didn't hide. He didn't run. He marched directly toward them. Villagers whispered his name as he passed. Veterans came out of their homes to join him. Crowds gathered behind him like a rising tide. And with every step north, the king's soldiers marched closer from the opposite direction. Until finally, on a narrow mountain road near Grenoble, the two sides met. Their officers shouted, "Halt! Do not advance!" Napoleon walked forward alone. The soldiers raised their guns. Napoleon kept walking. He stepped into the line of fire, opened his coat wide, and exposed his chest, and shouted, "If any of you would shoot your emperor, here I am." Silence. Then, slowly, muskets began to lower. Not because of fear, not because of orders, but because these were the men he had led through Italy, through Egypt, through Austerlitz. Men whose names he remembered, whose wounds he remembered, whose stories he remembered. A single voice shouted,
Vive l'Empereur!
Then another. The line collapsed as soldiers rushed toward him, cheering, crying, reaching for him. Men sent to arrest him lifted him into the air. With no battle, no blood, no force, Napoleon had taken back France.